There's often a part two. Sometimes there's a part three. I got such a good response on the last video. I hope at least all those same people catch the second video. I've got to stop there for a second. I got some really cool viewers. You know who you are. You're always commenting and stuff. I have my droid picks up those comments whenever they're made. Middle of the night, I turn the volume down. But I always get my notifications. I'm always reading them right then. Sometimes I'll respond right then, but you people are really cool. I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, the lack of trolls on my channel. Maybe I have a troll repelling spell on there or something, but I always hear such horror stories from so many people. I have never deleted a comment. So the comments you see on my videos are the comments I get. I get private comments too. There was one time a Christian that posted something kind of negative, and I got it on my phone. And by the time I went there to respond to the comment, he had deleted his own comment. I did get a couple comments got deleted as spam automatically, I noticed, and luckily I'd seen the comments because they were really nice, really flattering. I think it was Beautiful Life. I think that's who it was, Beautiful Life. You got a number in there, I forget your number offhand, but I saw your comments before YouTube decided they were spam. I don't know why they decided that, but I saw those. Thank you. People are very sweet. So I wanted to give you more, of course. This one, How Magic Works Part 2. Probably more important than How Magic Works Part 1, or just How Magic Works. I wasn't sure if there'd be a Part 2. This one with the subtitle, She Changes Everything She Touches. You may have heard that. You may see it on a bumper sticker now and then, too. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. Now, how does she do that? Well, first of all, let me tell you a story. Millions of years ago, our ancestors living in caves didn't want to live in caves anymore, so eventually they built houses, and then eventually they built buildings, and then eventually they got electricity, and further they went, the further we went from nature to where we live. We live in these boxes now, surrounded with electrical wires running through them, electromagnetic fields running through our house, disrupting the natural energy flow, disrupting the magic. One of the reasons that we like to work so much magic outside. Or maybe at least don't put your altar right by an electrical outlet, but it's inescapable. Women that live in houses tend to have erratic moon cycles, and when they go camping, all of a sudden their moon cycles sync up with the new moon every time. As soon as we get out of these unnatural energy flows, natural energy tends to flow. Now, magic we're using, or the energy we're using in magic, tends to be natural energies, nature. Sometimes we are forcing laws of nature to occur in accordance with our will, to cause change in accordance with will. Now, how she does that is she makes us more like her. She changes everything she touches, and everything she touches changes. Now, first of all, it's difficult in the beginning for your average human being that lives separated from nature to have an impact on the natural forces, to work in sync with those natural forces. I talked before about the path of least resistance. Well, we're starting from a path of resistance. We're starting from an unnatural path. And what we're trying to do as witches and as pagans is get ourselves in sync with that natural flow. And it seems lost on a lot of people in this day and age, because we've come so far with so much Wicca to blur the meaning of it all. I'm sorry. Wicca's good for securing our religious rights, but it became such a free-for-all that a lot of craft gets lost on the ways. Now, the reason for our 8 holidays a year, the Sabbaths, if you will, are not just so we can have a cool play and show off in front of our friends. They're not just to meet other witches, hang out, have a social event. But they are those things. But those are not the reason for the season. The reason is the season. The reason is that we have these high points and low points of natural forces, the equinoxes where the sun is equal, the solstices where the sun is either high or low, depending on if it's a winter solstice or a summer solstice. And then the 4 holidays in between, which tend to be about what happened to the plants and the animals based on what the sun just did. A lot of interesting plays, religious theater, different rituals, all to emulate these one thing. These things. And when we're doing that, when we're acting out these plays, when we're doing these rituals, we are optimally, if we're doing them in the most right way, we are emulating nature. We are doing the things that nature does. We may be playing a part of a god and goddess, but those god and goddess are doing things based on nature. You know, like around May, they're chasing each other around, and on and on and on. That can be kind of tough when you're playing the part of God, because you feel that. You feel that energy. God rises and dies. God rises and dies. And that can be really heavy when we're playing the part of God rising and dying. And if it's not really heavy, well, we didn't really go there in our ritual. But it's kind of that thing we were talking before about now. We tend to be in a circle when we're doing these rituals, and we're taking on the likeness of the god and goddess, and we're acting out the likeness of what is going on the planet, what the god and goddess are doing on the planet. The reason we're doing that is because the like attracts like. We are getting in sync with those natural energies. She's changing us by touching us. We're being changed by touching her. The reason I have to stress on this is because it's become unimportant to too many witches. Things like the full moon, the new moon, the new sun, full sun, the 8 Sabbaths a year. In other traditions, they have other holy days. Like Strega, we've got August 13th, which is a whole slew of special holidays there. But the whole point of these rituals is that we're putting ourselves in sync with the natural forces. And if we do that for long enough, we become more like it. When we become more like it, we are greater able to affect it with our will. We have become more like nature, and as such can have more of an effect on nature. Now, I'm not saying that we all have to live in tents and stuff like that. This is why we go out of our houses to meet up for these rituals. In my tradition, we have the full moon, the new moon, the 8 Sabbaths a year, the extra holidays, and then we have solar and lunar salutes, where we recognize there are other sacred times that happen each day: a sunrise, sun peak, sunset, moon rise, moon peak, moon set. And we have a salute that goes with each one of those. You can come up with your own. You don't have to use somebody else's. But the point is to acknowledge that those times are happening. Now, we may have jobs that are taking place at the moment of our holiday. Like, the equinox happens at a time. The solstice happens at a time. The full moon happens at a time. The new moon happens at a time. We may be in a place where it's hard for us to sync up with those cycles. We might not be able to go outside. But I bet we can pull off, in most jobs, I bet we can pull off a cigarette break or a coffee break near those times. Failing that, we can run off into the stall in the bathroom and just feel the moon right when she becomes full. Sync up with the moon right when she becomes full. Sync up with those holidays. I hear a lot of people making excuses, but I've been a witch my whole life. I've had jobs my whole life. I wasn't always working in witch stores, and I managed to pull it off. because I recognize that we're not looking for a whole ritual every time a solstice or an equinox or the Sabbats or the Esbats happen. We're looking and we acknowledge that that's happening. We recognize it. We spend time feeling it, syncing ourselves up with it. If we have time, if we have the ability, yeah, we do a whole ritual. We burn candles, we burn incense, we burn stuff, wave our arms around, chanting in strange languages, singing. But we can't always pull that off. We can probably pull off something. You can probably pull off more than you think you can pull off. Being with that knowledge there, a little something is better than a nothing. Doing little something at the moment of the full moon. Even if you're sick in bed, it's like, oh, you got your little app on your smartphone. Like, oh, the moon's full right now. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right, got it. There we go. We did it. And you can get to the point where you can do you can cast a circle without moving. You can do an entire ritual in your head on the bus and make it look like you're taking a nap or something like that. You can do it. You can do it. The whole point is that we are going to better be able to change those things when we have been changed to be more like those things. And the way that we as witches and pagans get changed is by engaging in the festivals, engaging in the sacred times, recognizing the sacred times. They're hugely important and hardly an issue of study in too many systems. People have forgotten what that's all about. Our magics may work before we're totally in sync with the natural cycle, but hey, that's a bonus. They're going to work a lot better when we're in sync. Now comes the problem when you get in sync with your natural forces. Maybe you have a particular star that you're working with, and you're engaging in rituals for when that star constellation is doing particular things. That's definitely done. I did ceremonial magic and other levels of magic, stellar magic. Now maybe you're doing that, or you're doing the planetary rituals, you're in sync with all of the forces, the whole universe at one time. Well, what you find once you're in sync is you tend to move more like that. Women that are really in sync, even if they live inside, will start menstruating right around the new moon. I'm not saying that you're not in sync if you're not. That's an untapped or unstudied science. But you find that, the full moon rises, you got a lot of energy. The moon starts to wane, your energy might start to wane. You might find yourself, around spring, really horny, getting laid a lot, or trying to get laid a lot. And then in the winter, not so much. Winter, you kind of want to go lay in bed for a couple months. That's natural. You probably can't pull off the laying in bed for a couple months. That's kind of hard for most people unless you're independently wealthy to do. But that urge to hibernate, that urge to go within, that urge to, sit around, eat popcorn, watch bad TV or something, that is, well, not the TV part, that is the natural cycle. There's a time when we should feel like hibernating. It's when the animals are hibernating. There's a time when we should feel like being asleep, like the middle of the night. Yeah, we got some witchcraft to do, lurking around, that kind of thing. But there's a time when the natural forces are at their lowest, and we'll feel tired. The trick now becomes, after you get to that point, and often the first time we see that point take hold is after a year and a day. A year and a day of craft activity, and that's why so many initiations hold that. You've been through a year and a day of enacting rituals to sync yourself up with the sun cycles, with the moon cycles, and a year and a day is when we've run through a complete cycle of those things. Okay, I'm sure I wasn't saying anything too important. Oh yeah. The trick now, once we're in sync with the universe, the trick for a witch is to go for the ride, but not be taken for a ride. What I'm saying there is we want to be in sync with the natural forces. We will be influenced by the natural flow of those natural forces, but we don't want to be to the point where, when Mercury goes retrograde, our phone blows up. Everybody that we talk to gets pissed off at us. When the moon, when the moon starts to wane, we have no energy and we just want to sleep all the time. There can be too much. You can be too in sync. When you get in sync with the natural forces, we've got to understand these are forces, the entire universe, and we're only recognizing a very small amount of those forces, the forces that we can see from our sphere. So I can't really tell you an easy way to do that, because that is the goal of the witch, to be in sync with those natural forces, yet not be driven by them. Sometimes, driven a little bit, led, influenced is good, but you're going to have to spend a lot of time thinking on that, figuring out how that's going to work for you, and making sure that you're not being taken for a ride. A witch, by all means, wants to take the reins of that ride. We want to take that ride where we want it to go. And it might not be exactly where that ride is going. So we're going to need to learn to steer a bit. So, take that for what you will. That's how magic works. She changes everything she touches. Everything she touches changes. You shall be changed. She shall change you. You shall see. Blessed be.